Okay, this is an interview of Robert O'Brien. It is Tuesday, July 30th, 2002. The Division of Military Naval Affairs Headquarters, Latham, New York. The interviewer is Michael Russert. Could you tell me your full name, date, and place of birth, please?
Robert D. O'Brien. I was born August 11th, 1925 in New York City.
Okay, what was your pre-war education?
I attended DeWitt Clinton High School in the Bronx. During that time I worked 40 hours a week as an usher in Radio City Music Hall. And at that time I enlisted in the Air Force.
What year was that?
That would be 1943.
Mm-hmm.
I enlisted after completing a testing program for pilot training.
Could you tell me, before we go into your service experience, when did you hear, or where were you, and what was your reaction to the news in Pearl Harbor?
I really don't recall the reaction to it. What I do recall was going back to school after hearing of it, and all the windows were taped up. It was a scary proposition for me. It looked like the beginning of a war-torn area.
You mean they taped up all the windows in school?
Yeah, the old process so the glass wouldn't shatter when the bombs hit us.
Yes. Okay, so you worked while you were in high school?
Correct.
Okay. Why did you enlist in the Air Force, the Air Corps?
I wanted to be a pilot.
You did, okay.
And after being called up, actually when I was called up, it was I got my orders to report for February 2nd, and 1944. And I left my orders on my parents' dresser so they'd know when I'd be called up. They were, I imagine, very delighted to see my name wasn't on the list. They never turned it over to find my name beginning with the next list on the back page. So I just couldn't understand why they weren't concerned about my going into the service. So I got up early in the morning on the February 2nd, prepared my breakfast. My father heard me stirring about, came in, and said, you know, what's going on here? And I said, I'm going into the Army. And that roused the household. I guess like all teenagers, I had that failure to communicate.
I can relate to that. Well, where did you go for your basic training? And
first off, I went to Fort Dix for indoctrination and all that goes on. Then we went to Greensboro, North Carolina. And just about 20 days after reaching basic training, I got the word that my brother had been killed overseas. And that was rather upsetting.
What branch of service was he?
He was in the Coast Guard.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was fitting that I should go home to be with my parents at that time. And I was told emphatically that no one left basic training for any reason. So I went to the Red Cross, appealed to them, which was a waste of time. I went to the chaplain, which was a waste of time. And I went to the base commander, and I don't know where I got the nerves, but I just let them know that either I go with a pass or I go without a pass. And lo and behold, I never saw the base commander, but his WAC assistant came out with a 5-day pass for me, and I went home. I had no money, appealed to the Red Cross, and they weren't very helpful. My barracks mates, who I really didn't know at all chipped in and collected money for me to go home. And years later I realized I never repaid them, and they never asked to be repaid. So when I left basic training, we went off to flight training school in Florida, and we never reached there. We found out that flight training school had been closed. And train reversed route, went off to Harlingen, Texas for gunnery school. And after gunnery school, went to Clovis, New Mexico for flight training to get meet a crew and so on. I was very fortunate. The crew I joined had an experienced pilot. He was pre-World War II pilot, a little bit older than the rest of us. A very intelligent group of people. So I was very fortunate that they were so good. In Clovis, we had a lot of bad experiences. Many planes went down due to poor maintenance.
What type of planes were you flying?
B-29s. B-29 at that time was still loaded with bugs. They had, there were many crashes due to the engines of the plane, plus a very, very poor maintenance. And it got so bad that the commander of the post issued an order that there be no permanent personnel on the base allowed to leave until the crashes stopped. And lo and behold, they stopped almost immediately. Very poor maintenance. When our training was finished, we were then assigned to go to a place called Kearney, Nebraska, to pick up a new plane to go overseas. We had no idea where overseas would be. But anyway, we got to Kearney, Nebraska. We saw crews that were waiting there for the planes. They'd been there for weeks after weeks, which I guess didn't upset us too much. We figured we'd be safe for a while. And 2 days later, we were sent to Florida and put on a converted B-24 and took off for parts unknown. When I was in Clovis, going back a step, I was trained as a gunner, and they already filled a slot for tail gunner, right gunner, left gunner, top gunner, and I figured, well, where's my positions? They called me a roving gunner. So I had to learn all positions as well as the Bombardier's position. And in quick order, they said to me, "You're a radar operator." I had never heard of radar. So they sent me off to school, radar training, and the radar sets were on a platform, and they showed us a switch, one way would turn it on, one way would turn it off. And then they showed us how to read a map, and that was my training. So on the way overseas, I went to my navigator, who I knew had been trained in radar. I said, "What is the radar all about?" I said, "What does it do?" We were never told that. And he said, "That's a military secret. I can't tell you." So anyway, we went off overseas. And wound up in India, in a place called Paradova, and started our missions from there, flying over the Himalayas into China to bring bombs and other supplies. So it'd be back and forth on several occasions. That was in November of '44. Then we started our serious bombing missions. One disastrous one for many of us was to Umura in Japan, where we were lost. And one of the reasons we were lost, we didn't know about the jet stream at the time. And we were blown so far off course. And the navigator just couldn't understand how winds could be that strong. He kept on compensating. But anyway, he did find us before. And actually they were getting ready to give the order to bail out over the Himalayas someplace. But he found our way home. And one mission after another. And
So how many missions did you fly?
altogether,
Yes.
36.
What was I going to mention? Did you name your plane? Was your plane named?
Our plane was named before we got it. We got a war-weary one because we were new over there, and it was called the Untouchable. After several, it was a good plane, and after several missions, they decided to change all 4 engines on it. And then we were assigned to take that plane and test run it. And I guess good fortune for us. The officers were given a 3-day pass, and the rest of us took off to parts unknown. And we didn't know we had been assigned to that plane to test fly it. A young fellow that I met just the day before, who had graduated from grammar school with me, a fellow named Morrissey, a radar operator. He took my place, and the plane went up, caught fire, wing burned off, and the crew, plus I think 15 joyriders, were all killed. And strangely enough, it scared me afterward. Mainly, it was almost the anniversary of my brother's death. And all I could think of, if I was on that plane, my folks got that message just 1 year after they got the word of my brother, it would have been devastating. So anyway, we went on many missions there. Went bombed Singapore, Bangkok on several occasions. And by the end of February, we learned that we were going to be off to parts unknown. Now our plane was no longer with us, so we had to go by ship, and went off and wound up in Tinian Island 47 days later. And it was on Tinian Island that we completed most of our missions.
So you had a totally different plane.
When we got over there, we had a different plane, naturally.
What was the name of that one? Oh, yes. of course.
We had several different planes,
Oh,
because
you-
again...
You didn't always have the same plane?
Not always. We were finally assigned a new plane, which was unnamed, unpictured, because some leading admiral or general's wife decided it was obscene to have the pictures on the planes, and they didn't want any other names on them. So our final plane had no name, just had a number. We lost our pilot just about July of 1944. We were all assigned to, again, fortunately or unfortunately, we were assigned training missions in July. The war was, we knew it was winding down. And new crews were coming over and needed a little bit of training. So I was out goofing off, swimming, when my crew told me to get myself up to get on a plane for a training mission. And I rushed up after a long delay, and I was assigned to do 2 different planes, one with my pilot and one with another crew, Captain Gay, I believe it was. I had to train the newly arrived radar operators, and they knew more than I did. They had a year's training in the States. They were all officers. And when we landed, we found that my pilot's plane, I was assigned to as well, his plane crashed, and all aboard there were killed. And they had, I think there was 28 people on that plane, joyriders and so on. So he was killed in July. In August, we had the atom bombs dropped.
What was your reaction to that?
Kind of cold. We didn't know what it was all about. When the bomb was delivered to our island, I just can't remember the name of the ship that it was brought on. You may know the story about that ship.
Yeah, I can't remember. I've read the name.
Indianapolis, was it?
I think so.
I think it was.
Yeah.
Isn't it? So,
Yeah.
Well, when that ship came, we saw ships coming in before, but that one, deliver the atom bomb. We didn't know anything about it. And the rumor started a secret weapon was on the island. And nobody paid, I don't know how the rumor started, but most of us didn't pay any attention to it. And so in August, the 2 bombs were dropped. And I guess it was almost 45 years later, I was reading a book saying that our missions, just prior to the dropping of the bombs, were decoys. So that we had a mission to Japan. On our way back, the Enola Gay was going to Japan. And the same with the boxcar. On our way back from Japan, the boxcar was delivering their bomb to Nagasaki. And in September, they sent us home.
Okay, do you have any other things you want to relate about some of your earlier missions or your missions at all? Or would you...
Well, we had one to Singapore, which was we were very, very tired. The whole crew was very tired because we'd been kept rather busy, one mission after another when we were in India. And we went off on this one mission to Singapore, and the pilot said to the co-pilot, or vice versa, I'm going to take a snooze, put it on automatic pilot. And he reached over to put it on automatic pilot, and as he did it, he fell asleep. So we went in a very slow circle for I don't know how long. And it was a question of, now, should we abort this mission and go home and face ridicule? Everybody was sleeping on the plane except the navigator. And he was in the Astrodome watching for a break in the overcast so he could take a fix on the stars. So finally he looked up, there was a break, he looked up, and the stars were not where they were supposed to be. So immediately he corrected our flight, went on to Singapore, joined up with another crew bombing, and we returned. We landed with just about fumes in the plane. That was 17 hours and 45 minutes of flying. So the next mission, which is just a few days later, it was 3 hours shorter. So, and they didn't usually give us enough fuel to waste 3 hours of flying time. So due to our very, very bright engineer, he was able to save fuel.
Did you, how long did it take a round trip to Japan and back to India?
14 hours.
14.
To India?
Or from India to Japan and back? Did you flew round trips?
That was, I don't recall the number of hours. That was, we only had one flight, our crew only had one flight from China to Japan.
Okay.
Are you talking about from India to China?
I didn't know if you were, I thought you were based in India.
We were based in India, and we're also based in China.
Oh, okay, and you made your bombing runs from China?
Both China and India. We'd either bomb Singapore or Bangkok.
Oh, okay.
Those areas from India.
Oh, okay, I didn't know if you were going into Japan.
And if we went to if we went to China, we had one bombing run into Japan, and others to Nanking, Manchuria, and so on, in that part of the world.
Okay, so it wasn't until you moved to Tinian that you started bombing the Japanese?
Well, that's, yeah.
Okay.
But they were Japanese.
Yeah, well, yes, I know that, but I meant the Japanese homeland.
Yeah. I don't know if you knew about the one of the raids to Singapore. One of our crews, I don't know if it was which one it was, but they dropped a bomb right down the funnel of a ship which was in the dry dock in Singapore. And rumor has it that the English government sued us for repair of that dry dock because we blew it to pieces. Then I went on another mission to Singapore a few days later with a crew that was without a radar operator, so I was assigned to it, and I was told it was going to be a milk run. And And you know what a milk run is?
No, well, I'd like you to explain it for others. who
A milk
may
run,
watch this.
don't worry about it, there's no danger whatsoever. So we went off on this recon mission, which had no danger whatsoever. And I was, my duty was to take pictures, radar pictures, while we're over Singapore, to see what was going on there. And they issued me a 35mm camera to take pictures with. I had never in my life seen a 35mm camera. Had no idea how to operate it, and they said, oh, no, press a button. No. That was my training at a 35. So I took, anyway, went on the mission, I took pictures galore, I have no idea if they ever came out or not. And we were attacked by a horde of Japanese fighters. They shot us up pretty badly, knocked out all communication on the plane, gave us a few scrapes, nothing serious, and I don't know what they call it, shot down or shot up, but we had to land at a place called Cox's Bazar, which is the border of India and Burma. And it was an English base. Our plane was little repairs and fueled up. And next day we flew back to our base in India. But no one had ever communicated that the fact that we were alive. And my crew were rather shocked to see me walk in.
Do you have any questions? Okay, could you relate how you think the war changed or affected your life, your service?
Actually, I only thought about that very, very recently, and I think it has made me a bit cold.
In what way? What do you mean?
There have been many, many deaths around me, and for some reason they don't affect me emotionally. The last one, my most emotional since the war was my father, for some reason. That got me. My mother's death didn't. I don't know why, except she had suffered, and I was glad to see her die, because she was suffering quite a bit. And this isn't lack of love or feeling, I just don't know, it just doesn't hit me emotionally.
Now you received the Distinguished Flying Cross. What was that for?
Well, it was one, actually there should have been a couple, but not to me especially, but to other members of the crew. We went to Japan, about the time we hit Iwo Jima on the way to Japan, we had a lot of engine trouble. And it was, again, should we just land at Iwo Jima and abort the mission? Should we try to get back to our base in Tinian? And it was decided to go on. We bombed Japan with one engine that was completely out. By the time we got back to our base, we were flying on 2 engines. By the time we landed, one was just about ready to quit. So we landed actually with 1 engine. And they thought that was a gutsy thing to do. I believe that's what it was for. But as you know, they give out medals quite often based on the number of missions you complete. So, as I said, there was medals that should have been given out for other things. I do mention in that write-up I had, right gunner and the bombardier and the engineer had to go into our bomb bay doors. There's 2 bomb bays, 2 doors in each bomb bay. On one mission, the doors just opened up and stayed open, which caused a lot of drag on the plane. These 3 people went into the bomb bay doors after we descended. We were just off the island of Japan and open to attack by planes. We were all getting all alone because we were falling behind our squadron. So we went down to a lower altitude. The 3 of them went into the bomb bay doors without parachutes, without oxygen. Now, the tallest of the one was the right gunner, Jim Sewell. They took turns sitting on his ankles as he lowered himself down into this open bomb bay door and hooked a cable to the bottom of the door, then had to go around to the other side and hoist it up and lock it in place. He had to do that 4 times, I believe, at a height of 17,000 feet. Now you get yourself killed at 50 feet. I read that other people doing the same thing got Silver Star, other medals. He was never put in for anything at all. And he deserved it.
What was your unit? What unit did you fly with?
I was with the 58th Bomb Wing.
Did you use the GI Bill after the war?
Oh yes. Yeah, they went to Manhattan College, completed that, went into industry, but my big desire always had been to study chiropractic. I was an accountant and financial analyst, and even back then I saw hanky-panky games with accounting, and I didn't like it, and unfortunately, I had a mouth. I made my feelings known on a couple of occasions, saying things like, if it's that complicated, it has to be wrong. Playing games, it's going to catch up with you. I got out of it, and my wife was a wonderful woman. But I didn't mention I got married.
Okay, yes, that was the next question. When did you get married?
That's a tough question. It's 1957, I believe it was. She kills me because I can never remember. But it was after college anyway. Got married and was fed up with industry and decided to study chiropractic. Talked about it at least. And my wife said, more or less, do something or get off the pot. So when she signed me up, actually she signed me up for chiropractic college. I was still in industry. We had 1 child. She's going to kill me. I think it was 1954 we got married. Well, let's put it this way. Next year is going to be 50 years. So you count back. So anyway, it started off, we had 1 child. By the time we were finished, I was finished with school, we had 4 and 1 on the way. And that kind of killed my chiropractic career for quite a while, because with that number of children, you can't be that independent to just take off. So it took many years later, I finally opened up my office and went into practice. Still practicing.
Do you, have you joined any veterans groups at all, or been active in any veterans groups?
I joined the China, Burma, India Veterans Organization. That was the first one I joined. Well, the first one I joined was the VFW, but I only stayed in that a year. I joined that right after I came out of the service. And I joined the China, Burma, India Veterans because I kept on getting letters asking me to join a local basha. And I had no idea in the world what a basha was. So for $10 to join, I joined in order to find out exactly what a basha was. A basha was the barracks we lived in India. My group called them barracks. The old-timers called them bashas. So I joined that. I joined the American Legion. I joined the VFW again. I joined the 58th Bomb Wing Association. I joined the 20th Air Force Association, the Air Force Association, you name it, I belong to it.
Are you active in any of them? Have you gone to any reunions? Have you had any reunions?
I went to one reunion. It was the 50th anniversary of the B-29, which was in Seattle, and it was unbelievable. They treated us like royalty there. Excellent reunion. And I formed my own reunion. I found my crew after many, many years. I just made a kind of concerted effort to try and find them, and I did. I found them all. Found that one was dead, one was dying. And we had a reunion. All but two of the remaining ones showed up at the reunion. And we had that was in Chicago about 12 years ago, I guess it was. And we had made a pact that at least every 2 years we're going to have another reunion.
Have you?
No.
I could tell. Do you have anything else that you want? Okay. Well, thank you very much for your interview.
I thank you for having it.